Episode 85 of the podcast. What are you trying to accomplish and is it working? What behavior are you looking at that you want to increase, maintain, or decrease? Because the terminology around that gets a little bit muddy, but we're going to talk about increase, maintain, and decrease as reinforce and punish, and what those terms really mean, because they are a measure of behavior change. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. What are you trying to accomplish and is it working? Those are really important things to be asking yourself. What behavior are you looking at, and what do you want to do with it? Do you want to increase a behavior? Do you want to decrease a behavior? Increased behavior would be reinforced. Decreased behavior would be punished. So, what if you like the behavior as it is and you don't want to change? That would be reinforcing. You would continue that behavior. You want it to continue. You want to maintain it, and that would be reinforcing. The reason why these terms are important is because having a shared lingo, a shared terminology for us to use together is how the science of behavior works. And while behavior is sort of a soft science, you can't measure like you can measure boiling point or, other things. You can't measure it like you can measure a height, but you can track behavior change. And these are some of the ways that we describe behavior change: increase, decrease, reinforced, punished, right? So if a behavior continues to build, it is being reinforced. That's not an opinion. It's not just the way I like to do things. That's the shared terminology of behavior science. If a behavior continues or is increasing, it is being reinforced. Whether you meant to or not, that is what the behavior change shows us. No matter what you're choosing to use, I want you to circle back to, is it working? Is it working? Is the behavior increasing or decreasing? Step back and observe the behavior change or lack of behavior change. I want you to think about if you are super, super nice and you're using food and toys and lots of fun stuff, and the behavior you're trying to keep the same or increase, right? There's a behavior you're trying to keep the same or increase, and you're using food and toys or lots of fun stuff, right? If that behavior does not stay the same or increase, you were not reinforcing or using reinforcement. So I want you to think about, let's see. I'm going to give you some good examples. I know, but she just listed a whole bunch of fun stuff that dogs like. But the behavior that you are working on is what is reinforced, not the stuff that we use. So I see it a lot with owners especially, but anybody who's kind of new to dog training, and you start thinking about reinforcements and punishments and how to apply a reinforcement or how to apply a punishment. And it's no secret on this podcast that I'm coming from a positive reinforcement kind of background, but I've also done plenty of punishment. I started working with dogs in the 80s with choke collars and prong collars and alpha rolls, and I'm really well versed in kind of all of it. This is a judgment-free zone. I just present the way I do things. But if you are adding all sorts of fun stuff, but that behavior you want is not increasing or staying the same, you are not using reinforcement. Reinforcement isn't something that you can put in a bag. Reinforcement is the measure of behavior change. Now, you might have a dog that you know will respond really, really well to a particular type of goodie or some petting or some praise or something that this dog really likes a lot, and plan on using that to get a behavior to be reinforced. But you can't just say, I was using reinforcement and it's not working because it's not increasing the behavior. It's not reinforcing for that dog at that time. All right. So another example. This is part of why having a very specific behavior in mind is so important, so that you can circle back and see if the science tells you if it's working. What does the science say? So here's another example. You could be using a harsh no, physically holding onto a dog's head to try to decrease the amount of struggling or, let's say, grabbing at the brush. For example, pretty common one. Dog's grabbing at the brush and we're holding them. Like, no, 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 right? It's a very common thing, just as common as the people who are using lots of cookies and stuff. If that struggling and grabbing behavior is not decreased, you are not using punishment. Even if that's what you were planning on doing, even if that's what your mind was tracking it as, it's not a punishment if it does not measurably decrease the behavior. These are terms that really mean something. So a harsh no for one dog might be something that makes him go, oh, and calm down for a minute, right? And for another dog could be, I tell you no. I tell you no right back, right? We know plenty of dogs we've seen this, right? We tell them no and they're like, no, back at you, you know? We know that some of these things don't work on some dogs, right? The reason why is because we have to look at the individual and we have to look at the behavior, a specific behavior that we are trying to change. Not just don't be a doofus. Don't be a doofus isn't specific enough. You know, you want to make sure that you have something in mind that you plan on changing, and then think about the kind of things you would do to interact with this dog to either increase, maintain, or decrease a behavior. So I used the two examples, the one example of being like super nice and using food and toys and stuff, and the example of struggling harder with a harsh no, because what I find is that those two extremes, I have observed a really high rate of failure associated with those. Because those are often what people have tried before I work with their dog. They've often tried all of that, right? And it's not like, oh, switch to the opposite one, so that'll be fine. You know, like, oh, the harsh no, he just needs cookies. That might not be it. The cookies dog, oh, he just needs a harsh no. No, that's not it either. We need to look at the individual. What motivates that dog? What's going on in that moment? What is that dog really doing the behavior for? A behavior that is maintained, that is continuing, or that is increasing, that is reinforced, the dog's getting something from it. Perhaps what they're getting out of it is that, they like being brushed. I know, someone out there just gasped. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if they all liked being brushed? Oh, I love it. But you know what? Plenty of dogs like being brushed, especially when they start to realize, oh, when I'm calm, and people are calm with me, it's kind of a massage. A lot of dogs learn to really like being brushed. Do I think that all dogs love it? No, of course not. But brushing in and of itself, learning to be brushed and thinking that brushing is nice, can be very reinforcing. It can maintain that behavior because the brushing feels good. It feels good, right? So it doesn't even about how many cookies we can add or what kind of things we can introduce. You have to think about the individual dog. What does that individual dog do this thing for? So, for instance, a lot of people use like food and toys and stuff with really, really silly dogs. But I find that sometimes that makes them sillier. Not necessarily teaches them to be calm. Not because they're bad dogs or they're terrible or that cookies don't work, but because it's not the right approach for that individual dog. If cookies are overstimulating or peanut butter is overstimulating, then we don't want to use it to calm a dog down unless we already have some sort of background that this dog will calm down if we're using these particular types of treats. So this is where we have to think about the science. And I'm really a stickler on this. If it did not work, we need to reassess, right? Not everything is going to work for every dog. Relax. You're not a failure if it didn't work. When you've failed is when you're trying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and wondering when the result is going to happen. That's a failure. Not that you're a failure as a person. That's a failure in a training scenario. If you're not seeing improvement, if you're not seeing something closer and closer and closer to what you want, it's time to reassess. That is not working for you. That's not working for the dog. That's not working for this behavior. Okay? So be thinking about these words are important. And having a behavior in your head that you are working on is important. Now, you might say, well, not being a jerk is increasing still. Sure, but I like it to be something very specific. Like, do I want this dog to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative? To me, that's very specific. It would be individual. Calm, comfortable, and cooperative for an old dog might be a different level than for a middle-aged dog who is nice and healthy and should be able to stand for a long time, right? It could be different for a puppy, right? A puppy, calm, comfortable, and cooperative is probably still a lot more wiggly than we would like for an adult dog. So be thinking about, is it working? Is it working? Did the behavior increase? Did it stay the same? Then the behavior was reinforced. But Chrissy, I used a harsh no and I held onto his face. Doesn't matter. If the behavior is increasing, then you reinforced it by using a harsh no. If the behavior is decreasing, if they were holding pretty still and now they're super wiggly again, and the behavior is decreasing, the behavior is being punished. But Chrissy, I used peanut butter. Doesn't matter. Look at the behavior. Look at the behavior. Is the behavior you're looking for decreasing? Then you are punishing that behavior. And that's where a lot of the emotion starts coming in on reinforcement and punishment. Punishment isn't about being mean. All right? Punishment is about decreasing behavior. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. I'm a positive reinforcement-based trainer. And what that means is when I see a behavior problem, my first thought is, what do I want to teach and to encourage? Because in my point of view, and follow along if you'd like, debate me if you would like, but from my point of view, it is time better spent teaching a dog exactly precisely what I want from them, instead of trying to tell them that that's not good. Don't do that part anymore, because they can come up with 1,000 different ways to do things we don't want them to do. So I'm going to give you an example. Imagine you are working a job. All right, I always use this one with my customers. You're at a pizza place, and this is your first day. And they're like, okay, you're just going to have you answering phones. So the person who's training you, right? Your trainer. But the person who's training you says, okay, you're answering phones. So the phone rings, you pick up Joe Schmo's Pizza. What can I get for you? And they tell you, no. All right. Do you have any idea how to pick up the phone yet? No, you're going to try something slightly different. Joe Schmo's Pizza. What? How can I help you? No. Joe Schmo's Pizza. May I take your order? No. At some point, most of us, being the learner in this situation, get frustrated. Tell me what you want from me. Tell me how to pick up the phone when someone calls, right? So what do we crave when we're the learner? What we crave from our trainer, the one who's going to teach us how to pick up the phone at Joe Schmo's Pizza, right? What do we want from them? We want the trainer who says, all right, this is the way we pick up the phone. Good job. Good job. Good job. Right? We want somebody who's going to be building that. And if we mess up, who's going to say, not quite it. Try it again. Not quite, you're almost there. Try it again, right? It's not an all or nothing. Almost there is something important too. Almost. Almost. Yay. Think about the times that you were learning something. Almost, somebody appreciating your almost, right? So if we're trying to teach a dog something and we're constantly just telling him to knock it off, I think that that's a much longer process than teaching them to simply hold still, or let me touch the back of your ear. Let me touch the back of your ear with this brush. Let me touch the back of your ear with this clipper, right? We can be very specific if we're trying to build a behavior, and it's not nearly as frustrating. But it's not because of having a handful of cookies, and it's not because a harsh no is cruel. There's nothing wrong with somebody doing a harsh no, right? It's just not the way I train. And I think that sometimes it's something they hear at home and it means something entirely different at home. So I will give you an example. Being in people's homes, pretty often a harsh no, the dog is doing something. Let's say he's sniffing the trash, right? No. The dog walks away. So your dog is on a grooming table, desperately wants to walk away. We don't want them to, but we're saying no, which is, for many dogs, literally the cue to go walk away, right? So now how frustrating is that? I'm trying to walk away and you won't let me. You keep telling me no, which means walk away, and I want to walk away and you're still holding my paw. I'm going to bite you, right? I realize I'm being anthropomorphic. I'm attributing a whole human story to a dog's emotions, but I want you to kind of see that that's frustrating. That's why it doesn't always work. That's why sometimes that harsh no creates more struggling. That's why you have to look at the behavior. You have to look at what is really happening in front of you. And sometimes it means using something you wouldn't normally use, right? That's okay. Sometimes a dog is going to be just a different fella. And we need to think about that, right? There are plenty of times where an owner has been working on something. So I'll ask them, well, what have you been working on? And I'll try to mimic what they've been doing. If they have been making progress, or they're working with a trainer, or they're following their vet's advice, but they're making progress and they're trying, I will do all sorts of crazy things if it's helping, and I'll play along, right? Like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it your way. But I want you to really think, though, about reinforcement means the behavior has increased or stayed the same. Punishment means the behavior decreases. Absolute, without a doubt. And it's one of the reasons why I want groomers to be more educated about training terms. Because sometimes we're watching someone's method and we're kind of losing sight of this is the way they are doing it with this dog. And sometimes we're watching someone's method and they're throwing out terminology and it is incorrect, right? You can have your opinion. Your opinion is very important. Like, this is how I like to do it. This is what I'm working toward. I'm happy with these results. That's an opinion. This is what I'm doing. I'm telling him harsh no. He's struggling even harder, but he needs to know I'm in charge, and he's struggling even harder, but he's going to eventually figure out that I'm in charge, and that's punishment, is incorrect. Because the dog is continuing to struggle harder and harder and harder, it is not punished, right? So when we're looking at these terms, one of the things I see is that they're used improperly so often, and I want you guys to be able to see through that. Like, okay, let's take a step back. What do we see? What do we see? Is the behavior increasing? Is the behavior staying the same? Is the behavior decreasing? Because that's what punishment and reinforcement are referring to. Increasing, decreasing, or staying the same, right? And like I said, staying the same, I'm going to put that under reinforcement because the dog is continuously doing it because it serves some sort of purpose for the dog. The dog has figured out this is the way life is, and that could break down too if you are trying to change that right? So if a behavior is staying the same, it's probably being reinforced. For example, if you're holding on to a dog and you're pulling on their leg and they're pulling back and you're pulling away and they're pulling away and you guys just keep pulling on each other, you're probably increasing or maintaining the pulling, which is reinforcement, right? So let's take the the treats and put them aside for a moment, and take the yelling or whatever and put that aside for a moment, and to really just look at the behavior. What do we see? What do we want to increase? What do we want to change? And is that change being made by the things that we are trying? Because the things that we try might be the harsh no, or holding on tight, or cookies, or peanut butter, or petting, or singing to a dog. Lots of different things could be the thing that we're using to try to increase, decrease, or maintain a behavior, right? But we have to reassess. Did it? The proof is in the pudding. Did it? Did it increase the behavior? What behavior change did we see? And that's part of why we also have to think about the exact behavior we're working on. Because don't answer the phone that way isn't specific enough, right? Nobody wants to work at the pizza place where 8 different times they tell you how wrong you are without ever telling you what they want. Nobody wants to work there, right? I want you to think about that we need a specific behavior that we are working on and that we are working toward. And then we get to choose how we want to try to get there and reassess if it's working or not. Just take a look, right? Take a look, because there are so many things to try. I'm really passionate about this part too. If I haven't tried everything in the 30-something years I've been working with dogs, you haven't tried everything either, right? The longer you work with dogs, the more you realize there's so much to learn, right? Nobody has tried it all. No one has tried everything. So when you're looking at a behavior, just straight up look at it and say, this isn't a judgment call on me as a human being. This is just, I'm looking at a behavior. And what do I see? What change am I seeing? Did it go up? Did it go down? Did it just stay the same? And make it that easy. And don't beat yourself up over it. Just think about it like, you know what? It's staying the same. Is it a behavior I want it to stay the same? Maybe it's holding still while I brush a foot. Then yeah, that's reinforcement. If the behavior that I want is holding still while I'm brushing a foot and that dog is doing it, great. That's being reinforced. Dog is still doing it. That behavior is being maintained somehow. Wonderful. So I know the terminology gets a little bit tricky, but that's really what it comes down to. And I think it's such an important concept. And it's something that we often get wrong. Because if we just hold on to this idea that I've got a bag of reinforcers and I'm going to reinforce this and why isn't it working? Maybe I need more reinforcers in my bag of reinforcers. That's not how it works. Reinforcement is a measurement of behavior change. And punishment is a measurement of behavior change. All right. So I want you to think about those things. And this week's action step is, I would love for you guys to just kind of start noticing when a behavior is increasing, staying the same, or decreasing. And your day-to-day dogs, be thinking about this. Your day-to-day dogs that you're grooming or you're training or you're, at the vet with, there are a lot of behaviors that are maintained. There are a lot of behaviors that dog just finds reinforcing for some reason. Start looking for it. Start noticing it. Because not everything we do is a hardship. Some of it's stuff that they like. Some dogs walk loose on a leash just because they like to. That's the way they walk, right? It's not being reinforced by us, it's reinforcing to the dog. The dog continues to do it because the dog likes going for walks and loose leash has worked, right? Be thinking about the way that we look at behavior, because behavior change and assessing if it's working or not is training. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.